Hi, everyone. Welcome. So today's our September community call, obviously, and there's a lot to share. I'm a little ahead of myself, so I'm trying to make sure I have the exact clear pieces that I want to make sure to share with you today. Because we're here in one of the most exciting times. It's truly thrilling, and we have a moment, to recognize this equinox and the fact that this sort of aperture that's opened, a lot of people are leaving the planet who are ready to go. And a lot of people have been crossing over using this aperture time. It's a bit of a drawing out energy. And so I just want to mention that to recognize it. Many of my friends, many people here in my little town, um, checking out through this aperture. It's a very special place where, people are able to shift and move out of what's going on in the energy fields of the earth. So we need to address that. But unlike most equinoxes, this aperture is arranged in a certain way. That's the best way I could describe it. And so what I experienced on equinox was that drawing out, and it sort of felt like a free fall into the void, which, as you've probably heard me discuss before, in some things I've talked about the void and how the void is my favorite place. And um, but this was different because it was as if, and I feel that this has been confirmed this morning by my own teacher, but the universe containing all things and the void has merged now. It used to be a polarity, and now it's one. Now it's merged. Now the polarity has collapsed. So now the void, which is the clear light of existence, is available. That's what's going on energetically. And when equinox happened, my body went through a lot of fear because I could feel the free fall, and that I sort of panicked a bit for not very long, because when you do processing, the panic comes up and you welcome it. And when you get used to that, you can shift out of fear really quickly. So emotional processing in this time, we're here to use all of the tools that we've been learning. And the people who are leaving, they've been needing to learn about power. That's why they've been here. And so now a lot of that is done. So there's a lot of different reasons why people are going to leave the body at the moment. First is that they're finished learning about the kinds of power they needed to learn about. We're going into a time of equanimity, a different kind of power that will require an entirely new personal self, right? So many of those people will come later when the time comes for us to build the new paradigm, the new culture, the new way of life, the new materium, right? And then others are shifting because they've been maintaining a for and against state, and that's no longer going to work anymore, literally. So it's just time for them to go ahead and shift so that they can also return, hopefully, for the more optimal time of centered presence, the energy of centeredness, the energy of neutrality. And so a lot of folks who are leaving are not able to work with that neutrality in a full 100%, all 12 dimensions, personality, ego. everything sort of way. And it's actually less and less um, obvious that, people who are checking out, maybe it seems like they're going too early or things like that. It's not that. There's this natural sort of drawing out almost. It's very slow but steady. And it feels like almost a suction, right? And there's going to be an incredible array of variety of different people who need to utilize those apertures, those gateways. And the gateway was so wide open because of the power of this equinox that that gateway felt like a free fall. And that's um something I've been trying to get used to since then. So, it's about a week and a half. And I have this sort of funny way of approaching the feeling of free fall. I hope it'll help you. I literally want a t-shirt that says this. But, what is falling when you do it on purpose? Well, it's flying. I think that's so funny. Um, so that being said, it's time to fly. And how do we do that? How do we ride this wave? Because right now it's in the second chakra, which is all about birth and creativity, right? And birth and creativity are pretty messy, right? And creativity is not it's not done in a perfectly nice, exact, clean um way. When you're painting or you're making a collage or you're even writing music, it's messy. You erase a lot of stuff and there's stuff everywhere. So, same with birth, obviously. You have the afterbirth, you have a lot of kicking and screaming that goes along with the creation of a new paradigm, a new species, a new way of living. So I want to honor that, right? And um, people mentioning too the loneliness is coming up because the death is very clear, right? That's because I think you're quite right. I'm going to probably mispronounce your name. I'm sorry, Elha. Elha, you're quite right. I believe that a, it's a polarity that's coming up for us. So some of my friends have crossed over now, and it's really natural, of course, for us to find that loneliness and that sadness show up in the grief. But the other side of that, you're quite right, is sovereignty. We are one. We are one human species, and we are here to go with the earth into the completely brand new um, way of doing consciousness. It's such an incredible time that no one has ever had experience, not even on other planets, of something quite like this. And so Sator asks, when did this start? Well, what I'm sort of mentioning here is a wave of consciousness that began last December solstice 2021. And for many, many years, myself and my teacher have been tracking these waves of consciousness since uh, basically since 2009, when the wave of consciousness that came then brought in global consciousness. And the global consciousness was a big breakthrough for humanity because before that we didn't naturally easily imagine each other throughout the world. It wasn't something that you could do easily all the time. And then the internet came along, in the early 90s. And during that time from the early 90s to 2009, so about little over 20 years of internet, it caused global consciousness to come online. And since then, it's turned into more than that. Now there's a galactic consciousness coming online, which is necessary because we are at a galactic shift at the moment. It's very physical, has to do with astrophysics. And since 2009, these waves of consciousness that come in during each year and have cycles, they've been tighter and more dense. And so this past year, I called it the black wave of consciousness. And that's actually what Native people were calling it too. And other ancient texts called it the black wave. And that's how I was seeing it too. And I didn't know that that was written in ancient text. And when I started to try to look more up about it, it got all laid out as, yeah, this is true. This was foreseen. And that black wave just being very dense energy, right? And so this black wave has been moving through the different areas of the body from the top down, revealing really dense stuff. And it's polarities, it's for and against stuff, it's preferences, it's reactions, it's trauma, especially 800,000 years of genetic trauma. And earlier this week, I taught our fourth module of Quantum Healing Revolution, where I discuss genetic trauma in great detail. So if that appeals to you to work on that, that's the bulk of the trauma written in the DNA that you're being asked to dissolve. And so a lot of the stuff that is coming up for people doesn't even belong to the personal self so much, but the personal, of course, we pick these particular types of genetic trauma in order to learn from. And so you end up owning it because it's up to you as an awakened being to manage the epigenetic trauma written in your DNA. And then on behalf of course, humanity and your family, by healing it, more light comes through your body, literally. And then you're more apt to be more comfortable with the massive amounts of radiation and energies bombarding us now. And so our electromagnetic field of the earth is almost halfway gone, and it's exponentially continuing to disappear. This is a big deal because people are wondering, why does everybody seem more crazy than usual? Well, it's a scientific fact that as the electromagnetic field lessens, you're bombarded by a lot more radiation and other energies from the sun and space, and that this has a dramatic effect on human consciousness and awareness. And there's been reports in from medical workers all over the world saying, yeah, we have more and more and more psychosis. It's just exponentially more and more and more. And so a lot of those folks, they're struggling with the formlessness that's happening because of this electromagnetic field disappearance. Again, this is astrophysics that I'm talking about, and if you're not used to the way I speak, I often will talk a lot about scientific evidence, physical facts, and things like that. But I also then weave in the esoteric, the mysticism, the science of spirituality. So I go back and forth between these two ways of thinking. And to me, they're merged. That's basically what my brand is, seer and scientist, right? So we merge mysticism with science in the kind of work that I teach. So that's why I'll bounce talking about like very literal things like the electromagnetic field is going through its excursion, it's disappearing, it's almost halfway gone. It's a big deal. And this is why we see more beached whales, more animals being very confused, birds having trouble, humans having trouble, everybody's having trouble. We're watching plants have trouble growing. Many seeds aren't sprouting. We're watching plants mutate before our eyes. We will continue to. It's going to ramp up. Um, in fact, a movie comes to mind that actually when it came out, I said, "This is actually more real than it seems," um, which is that, that's Hollywood in a nutshell. But it's a kind of violent movie, so if you don't like violence, don't watch this movie. It's a rated R. It's called Annihilation, and the field of energy that movie shows us is kind of what's going on. Everything becomes so formless and so one. It actually accentuates mutations. It accentuates DNA change, and so I'm just warning you that movie can be very scary. Um, and what's happening right now, it's not necessarily scary because you're going into becoming something new yourself. And what I mean by that is we have a term for it in evolutionary biology called punctuated equilibrium, because evolution tends to happen in bursts, not slowly, big bursts, because then consciousness is put under pressure in a very physical, literal, mental, emotional, and spiritual way. And then the things that can handle that pressure, that's what arises out of the pressure, right? And that's when you get new species, new plants, new humans, Homo sapien turning into Homo luminous because of huge amounts of pressure in consciousness. And so a lot of our friends, dying either consciously or unconsciously, or family members dying right now, um, it's part of that. It because their bodies are not going to be able to handle what's happening. They're not handling it, and it's their soul's cue. It's their clue. Ah, it's time. It's time for me to exit and let the transition team who can make it through this aperture, who can make it through to renew the DNA into something fresh, that we're going to go ahead and let them do their job so that when we come back, we'll be able to help rebuild in the proper way. And that's why the fear of death needs to be addressed, because the fear of death is a false program. It got put into human DNA consciousness early on during our 800,000 year stint here as Homo sapien, because it makes you a better slave. And so the fear of death is such a false matrixy type energy. It's so probably one of the more painful programs that humans have had to deal with. And that fear of death is going to come up a lot now because you need to dissolve it out of your field. You need to dissolve it out of your DNA and your body and your thinking. So if you can recognize that the shattering, the dissolving, the dying, the what looks like a messy crumbling of this top down power over paradigm of what has happened to Homo sapiens, if you can see yourself in this dissolving, then you will know exactly what the next thing is inside of you that needs to go so that you can carry through and break through with the group of humans that will survive this shift over the next 100 years. You're going to help break through and be able to show up as Homo luminous with all the new plants and animals and the new paradigm of equanimity and power in the service of all beings. That's exactly where we're headed. That's what we call the golden age, the new age, the Aquarian age. Um, and that's exactly what it will look like. It's going to be so new. It's actually very difficult for us to grasp because nothing that you think that you're used to will remain. None of the financial systems, none of the social systems, None of the identity politics, none of the infrastructure, none of the beliefs. The language is going to change. Everything has to go. So if you have something you're holding on to, or something that you seem to be totally against, don't forget about that part. Then you need to step away and recognize that's the part of me that needs to go. I'm I'm against another world war, for example. Well, you need to collapse that polarity, for and against. So you need to really actually take some disciplined time right now to clean up the creative center, the second chakra, right below the navel. That's what this wave of consciousness is now pressing down into. We got through June and the breaking open of the masculine power center of the heart, which is extraordinary. And for me, I felt like I was pretty much going to die. So I'm sure all of you went through your own night hard, what we say, the term, the shadow night, or the hard night of the soul, or something like that, right? The dark night of the soul. Um, and so now it's the power center, which means that you got to clean up your studio. Your human body is your creative domain. It's your temple. And whatever's going on with for and against, whatever's going on that you're resisting and saying, no, I don't want that, or that just needs to go, and I don't care about that, or I prefer this, I want this, I'm gonna cling on to this. Why can't things just be the same? I'm hearing it from people during sessions. A lot of folks are just now starting to realize that, say, for example, the financial system is collapsed entirely, and it's subtle because the media is not going to talk about it, but it's also very brutal because this is something we've depended on for a long time, and it's a false paradigm of debt. That's not a natural way to build a natural economy of light. And so, a lot of beautiful people who are retired and they're like, I just want to enjoy my children and grandchildren. I don't want to worry about money again. And this is really hard news because they haven't been able to access this information. It's all been censored, right? So, this is really important because now we're watching the top down absolutely collapse. And it's in you. We've been holding that up. I have. We've been doing we've been we've been doing it. We've been saying, "All right, I'm going to be a slave to academia, to student loans, to debt. I'm going to play along cuz it's comfortable." And that's what everybody else is doing, right? Everybody else seems fine. We're all eating. But now it's crumbling, and there's no cohesion at the tippy top. There isn't. And they're all scrambling because guess what? Everything's becoming more and more and more formless. And they don't know what to do with that. The most dense people on the planet who run the tippy top of that big upper pyramid that goes, so the lower pyramids all, we're all down here. And that tippy top, that's not where it ends. There's another inverted pyramid that basically, trying to do it right, that goes like this. And this is where all the wealth has been going. That's where all the power has been going. It's all falling apart. There's no cohesiveness anymore because they have to collapse the polarity of power over us. Right? So that's very key. And when you create, when the earth has been deciding now over many, many years to become more formless, and it's time now for the 12,000-year galactic cycle to cause the electromagnetic field to go into an excursion or go internally, it's literally creating more formlessness so that this whole thing, this whole double pyramid thing, it's completely falling in on itself. And so from that, we're going to have to sift through all of that and decide, what are the nuts and bolts that we need to keep. And we're going to have hardly anything left to use from the past 6,000 years of consciously created mass psychosis of power over dynamics, right? So now what you can do with this is keep doing the self-inquiry process more than ever and say, what in me is being triggered? What in me is trying to cling on to certain things? And use this as a chance to collapse more polarities inside of you to keep up with what's going on. And it's exponential. So it's going to happen faster and faster and faster. And by solstice, if you can really clean up your inner world, your for and against, your all your attachments, all of your hopes and dreams, all of the things that you've been wanting, even stuff you've been working really hard for, to allow it to dissolve. This is an incredibly intense time, and collapse it. So, for example, the victim tyrant dynamic is a very famous and extremely well understood polarity, right? And a lot of times, most of us understand it from the victim side, right? And so victimhood right now is really popular in the West as part of identity politics get more and more whipped up. And so when you examine victimhood, you always, always have to have a tyrant for victimhood to exist, right? But the trick is to understand most of the time, the tyrant has been a victim before too. And a victim will either stay a victim forever and ever, and they'll cling on to it as part of their identification of self, their personal self, right? And then they're going to constantly attract a variety of tyrants to maintain that identity, oftentimes subconsciously. Or they swing real hard to the other side and then they become a tyrant. And in order to make anything like that work, you have to have two beings or two groups maintaining the polarity. It's sort of like tug of war. And there has to be two groups holding onto that rope for the war to continue. And so when you begin the process of collapsing a polarity, the first step is to say, I'm going to drop the rope. I'm not going to hold you separate from me anymore. I'm going to recognize myself in you. How am I a tyrant? I know how I am a victim, but how am I a tyrant? Most people don't get this far in consciousness. And so when you can look at something, you say, I hate this person. I hate this event going on. I hate this group. I hate this politic. I hate this system. You have to go and look at yourself and say, how am I part of that system? How have I held it up? How am I the tyrant? And how am I the thing that I hate? Because you are. You are the universe. You're the whole universe. You are simply mirroring it back. And when you recognize that, you become more and more and more the universal self. That's what that feeling of expansiveness is when you finally collapse a polarity and you stop playing the game of victim tyrant or worthlessness arrogance. or abundance and scarcity. You stop saying, no, 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 I am that whole thing. And that brings you to center. It stills the body, it stills the emotions, it stills the mind. And when you come into the center, it's how you get off the hamster wheel of polarity dynamics, is by recognizing that you are both. You are Russia and the United States. You are Europe. You are all of those things. You're not separate from anyone around you. You're not separate from any system. We've been holding this up. We are the system. The fear of death, you've been maintaining that. You are the fear of death. And you're also the opposite. You're also the incredible, precious love of transformation, transmutation, transubstantiation, the alchemy of what happens to matter and reality and consciousness in the universe. You are the source field to which all beings go home. You are the source field to which all beings go home. Your friends and family members may die, but they're going home to the universe, source God, and you are not separate from that. That's why death is much more of an illusion rather than a problem. Because we're used to being able to use the physical form to talk to somebody and interact with them. And right now, all the other light bodies from all these other dimensions of form and formlessness are available. And so it's much easier now to connect with those who are crossing over, and they're going to help us along. They're going to help us along. They have been. Right? So this is key to how we're going to get through the solstice. Because once that wave of consciousness hits the root chakra, which is the divine feminine power center, the earth is going to go through a great release, and your body will too, whether you're a man or a woman. It doesn't matter. But that center is the I am presence. That's the beginning of the primordial presence of consciousness. And it's been so distorted for so long beyond this planet. People, a lot of times they want to hear about their past lives, and I discourage that. Yeah, I could do a past life reading for you, sure. But how are you avoiding your present life by doing so? None of those past lives can inform you as fully as this one can about what's happening presently. Because none of the beings that we were on any other planets went through what we're going through now. There is no experience that we can draw on that can help us define precisely what what we should expect from what's going on from here. That's why all eyes are on us. Why would they be so attentive to what's happening to humanity right now otherwise? So don't worry about your past lives. You'll remember stuff when it's time. Trust that. If you need it, all those tools will be there for you. You need to remain very present with the energies of the earth right now. And you need to not stop the self-inquiry. Keep pointing the finger at yourself. And once you do, you begin to see the truth that that's exactly why this big top inverted pyramid of people who've been working in the power over dynamics, that's exactly why they're scrambling. Because they don't know, they're not cohesive, they don't know what this all means. They have a lot of guesses, and they're trying to run it through what they know. And what they know is so dense and corrupt, it can't possibly stand on its own 2 feet. It's literally crumbling before their eyes and before ours too. And if we find the language of blame is coming up at the moment a lot, certain like in the United States, certain states blaming other states for certain things, and one party blaming another and another one blaming another, that's useless. That's just a clue of how disconcerting this lack of cohesion really is in human consciousness. It's all got to get scrambled up and whipped up into nothing first, and then we'll be able to recognize what we are on the other side of it. And we get these glimpses of what that might be, what Homo luminous is all about, but the truth is we really don't know anything. And you can't keep projecting your consciousness into the future and keep trying to bypass the wreckage of what's there, because that wreckage is full of valuable information. The crumbling itself, the dissolving itself is showing you how to do that gracefully, how to let the egoic structures of judgment and expectations, attachments and resistance and preference, how to let that dissolve in you at a good quality pace. That's what it's showing you. So, as we move forward from here, the next few months are integral for you to find your center where you will not have reaction, where you understand that worthy, all worthy polarities are ready to collapse. Pretty much everything we've been used to is crumbling and dissolving. And it's that free fall now. Now that whole inverted pyramid, the whole thing's free falling. And the one underneath it is too. And then that free fall, it's very uncomfortable because it makes the body panic. That's exactly what happened to me on Equinox. It's been a long time since I've felt panic like that. And I was like, what is happening? And I welcomed it and recognized, I know what this is. This is the free fall of formless, timeless energy. And that's those two templates of wisdom, formlessness and timelessness. A long time ago, maybe 2018, 17, I did a lecture on wings for humanity. I had seen a glimpse of this free fall, and I talked about, what was coming through was formlessness and timelessness. Those are the wings for humanity. Those help us to expand, to recognize I am all these things. That's what formlessness really means. I'm not separate from any of this. All this dense, uncomfortable stuff that I personally hate, I am that too. And timelessness saying, there's no need to worry about the future or the past because they're inevitable. Time is an ocean, and we are being drawn by gravity to what we would call an inevitability in time. There are no timelines. It's an ocean, and you're micro navigating this ocean all the time, every moment. This is why the moment is key. You can't micro navigate easily when you're trying to worry about the future of your 401k or your pension. That whole thing's going to go away. All of those things are gone pretty much at this point. People want to make plans for the next 10 years. Stop. Draw in all of your resources, liquidate them, get present. The most valuable stores of wealth are Gold, silver in hand, land, medicine, food. Those are your 5 best bets to make sure that your wealth, your legacy are protected in the long run. Because gold and silver have always been money since the beginning of time. And it's why there's so many species throughout all galaxies, especially near us. They all value those things. If you really look at, say, galactic history, those 5 things, it doesn't matter what planet you go on: gold, silver, land, medicine, and food. So, and gold and silver are medicine. So they have incredible value. They are storehouses of true value. No other money is. No other money is. It's all based in debt, so it's not real, it's fake. It's fiat. It's another word for fake. So that's all shifting. And it's not something that's easy to get used to. But the cool part is that as it all crumbles, as all this dissolves, these two pyramids, as they collapse, already right now all the new stuff's breaking through, new plants, new species, new, they just found in 2015, I didn't know this, they just found a new mammal. When's the last time anybody heard of a new mammal? Right, well, it gives you a clue. um, and there's a lot of new stuff happening to humans too. We're not separate from any of this. We got to break through and mutate and evolve too. That's what the Homo luminous thing is all about. And, you can either choose to purposefully mess around with your DNA with technologies that people don't really understand, or you can let your body naturally adapt to what's happening to the Earth and our solar system and our galaxy. And if you do that, then you're more likely to probably naturally find all of those beautiful ways to continue to thrive and survive. Not just survive, but to thrive in the new. And so we're watching this occur in real time, even on my own farm, seeing all this occur. Lots of new stuff going on, and it's just going to ramp up. So this is cool. I'm really excited about how this unfolds. So I'm going to look at your comments here and your questions and kind of help you address some things. Somebody asked to talk about conscious dying. I don't know. I randomly saw it. Let me address that. So one of my friends was dying over many months and totally fearless. I just loved her. Her name was Alora, and still is on the other side. So Alora, I got to see her, and she was so conscious and aware, and very a pretty slow but steady decline in the strength of her body. And a week before the equinox, she emailed me. Her husband did, on her behalf. And she said, "Is there some kind of demon keeping me in my body? Would you look for me?" And when I looked, I said, "Oh, no, no, no. It's a gatekeeper. Because the optimal time for you to go isn't 7 days, it's on the equinox." And so I kind of described the gateway for her so she could perceive it, right? And not be afraid of the gatekeeper keeping her in her body until the optimal time, right? So, first, in order to do conscious dying, you have to dismantle your fear of death. And you can do that in a lot of different ways. One of the ways is to create and then destroy your own creations. And this is what has been done in ancient traditions for ages and ages. Like Like how Tibetan Buddhists would create beautiful mandalas of sand and then promptly, when finishing their masterpiece, sweeping it all up. And that is exactly, if you do that on a regular basis, if you create something and then destroy it every day, even like a little vignette or a little piece of art or an altar, create and destroy. This gets your body and your consciousness subtly, not the mind right away, but the body and consciousness subtly more comfortable with the concept of destruction. And then it's not so scary. It actually becomes sort of beautiful and fun in its own weird way. So you got to conquer your fear of death first. And then to consciously die, just being really, really aware of each moment, each day, letting certain moments draw out, letting certain days be very short, however that might be. That's how timeless navigation of the moment feels. And then as you get closer, recognizing that there's going to be an aperture, an opening that's ideal for you, trying to recognize what it is, trying to name it even. It's going to be this day. A lot of people have done that in conscious dying. And that's what Alora did. And when she did that, she actually died at the exact middle hour of the equinox. It was her last gift, the ability to consciously die that she gave to human consciousness that I can give to you. She came to me afterwards and she tapped me on my head and my shoulder and my hip and my foot so that I would know it was her. And she didn't need to, but she thanked me for helping her see that precise moment so that she could do her conscious death as a gift for humanity. And I feel her presence very strongly, and she's just having a blast. I mean, these incredible bodies can be also very painful. And when you do leave your body, you suddenly realize how heavy it was. These bodies are pretty heavy, made of a lot of water. Water's really heavy, and so is trauma. And so she's having, her heavenly bliss time, which is absolutely fabulous to watch. But that's one of the beauties of death is the freedom, the glory, the bliss, the power of source God bringing you home. It's so wonderful. I finally am not afraid of death. Um, Partly because of her. When I learned at what hour she died on the day of equinox, I could feel it. I was having a really hard day. I had a migraine most of the day. And so I just hung out, just allowed the whole day to unfold. And I could feel it when she left. And then the email went out. And I laughed out loud. I was so happy for her. I was so proud. I was so excited. That's conscious death. It's on the plate for all of us whenever the time is right. We'll all know that. That's the cool part. You know, you do, you'll know. And she knew. She knew. Great. I love what Daki says, threshold of power to empowerment, right? Yeah, that's right. We're coming into the age of empowerment. We are, which equals grace. And grace is the divine wind beneath Daki's wings and ours, if we'd like that, as I free fall into Homo luminous energy. Yeah, I like that. That's a good way to put it. It's true. Grace is very conscious now. Grace is available. I can see how people talked about the Holy Spirit because grace is conscious and it's sort of in between everything. And when you're feeling like something's impossible, right? The collapse of a polarity, or I don't know if I can ever, you know, not hate this thing, person, issue, whatever, political party, ask grace to help you. We got to ask. We got to ask Source God. We got to ask Grace. We got to ask Christ. We have to be open. We got to ask the angels for help. They really want us to be sovereign and take charge and tell them what to do. They really need that. They can't do their job unless we give them permission. Um, so yeah, focus in on grace. Ask grace to help you. It really is precious how grace can do these things and make it easier for you when you as a person seem to run up against a lead wall, perhaps, of some kind of thing that has to collapse. Ask grace to help you. There is nothing so dense that grace can't dismantle. So, um, Joe says, is flying just free fall in reverse? No, it's consciously letting yourself fall, consciously letting this collapse and saying, I allow this, right? If we do this, then we're like a big heavy rock and we crumble with it. But if we say, I allow, right, then our arms go out and we open ourselves. I'm gonna totally go with this. I'm free falling with the wave. Then you surf with the wave instead of getting crushed by it. That's the difference. Ah, yes. So Dorina had asked a conscious dying piece. My apologies, Sator. So it's our community calls are usually the last Friday of the month at 12 p.m. Eastern time. And so if you're counting to Pacific, right? And I just want to, I'm just answering questions in order here. So I'm going to bounce around. But Eastern time, 12 Eastern time, 11 Central, 10 Mountain, 9 Pacific. So that might have been what was wonky. My apologies. Yes, correct. People are noticing this. This is the Sri Yantra. And I try to encourage people to meditate on the Sri Yantra, get a black and white print of it, print it off your computer, a black and white version of this. This is what the universe looks like. I can't tell you how special it really is. There's a whole galactic history to this, but this is what, if we were to look at a structure of what the universe looks like, that's what it looks like. And when you gaze at this, right? And so gazing is a type of meditation. You have it out in front of you about 3 or 4 feet. You want it at this level height of your eyes. And when you gaze at the center of it, scientific studies have shown that by doing gazing meditation on the Sri Yantra, you can get your brain to go into a very, very high state of samadhi meditation faster than almost any other meditation. So if you want to do fast, really good quality meditations, use the Sri Yantra. It's just one of my favorite things ever. So thanks for noticing. It's for you. Good. So Sator says, should we ignore what's happening in the external world? No, no, no. You definitely want to attend to it and then watch your own reaction to stuff, right? Because if you're watching it carefully, you're gonna be like, ooh, there's a really good polarity there. I'm gonna work on that in me. Ooh, I had a reaction to that guy. How am I like that? What was my feeling? Well, I just had this deep disdain show up. All right, I'm going to allow the power of disdain to collapse inside of me. I am not separate from this person. Use what's happening in the external world, the dissolving, the crumbling of the inverted pyramids of power. Use that. Use it as a mirror inside of you and notice your reactions. Track the reaction in your body and reactions will move around, right? So, like, somebody says something you don't like, and it might cinch up your throat and then move up in weird spots in your face, and notice it, allow it, welcome it, and say, "How does this trigger me? Oh, I have some several events that happen in my life that remind me of some traumas. Oh, like I have some genetic stuff here because it feels really big and it feels all over my body. That's how you know it's genetic. It feels really big, it feels beyond you, right? So use the external, use it. It's absolutely precious. And the more you do it, the more one you feel with the external. You don't feel different. You're like, yeah, yep, whole thing's dissolving. Me too. And then it's enjoyable. I know it sounds weird, but I woke up this morning and I'm like, I'm so happy. Like, I'm so happy. I'm so happy that this is all dissolving. And I'm dissolving with it. I'm so glad. So that's how we use it. Very good. So Vince asks, can you please elaborate on why the electromagnetic field on the Earth has been lessening? Yeah. And Caroline's next question saying, did the earthquake we had in Central America on Sunday have any significance? Well, no, not exactly. It's not that it's significant esoterically so much as it's an example of that the earth is going to become more fluid, more malleable as the field disappears, and then things that are happening from the sun. Earthquakes are directly linked to, hurricanes are directly linked to the sun. Okay, and the idea of human caused climate change is not real. That's an attempt at continued power over dynamics, forcing humans into the human hate program. You've heard me rail about this, but if you're new to how I speak, this is the thing that I have been warning everyone about for many decades. The human hate program has been running the show. And when you see comments and ideas and thoughts about how people are like, we love the earth, humans need to get their act together. That's just the beginning of what we would call the human hate program. The idea that we're overpopulated, which is a false concept. And the true science shows that the sun is directly, climate is change. Climate is always changing. And we're actually going into an ice age because the mechanism of the sun, the electromagnetic current sheet between the sun, the planets, and Earth, and then the greater galactic current sheet, they all have different cycles. And so the sun directly causes and is the influencer of storms and earthquakes and all sorts of different events. And over the past 100 years, we've been going into a period of what we might call a very short peak warming time. It's not even close to what warming used to look like at all. And then now we're going into the feedback mechanism that causes an ice age to occur. That's how the Earth protects herself during the 12,000 year galactic current sheet shift. So the galactic current sheet, the galaxy itself also has an electromagnetic current sheet. And that current sheet has waves. And right now, that wave is hitting our solar system. And it's been hitting all the other solar systems near us in order. And those suns, those stars, Proxima Centauri is the closest one, have been going supernova. And that happens every 12,000 years. And the electromagnetic field of the Earth disappears every 12,000 years and then comes back. Sometimes the magnetic fields shift, which causes different cataclysms. And these cataclysms played like a giant, I call it an etch a sketch. That's the toy when you draw something and then you shake it up and it all disappears. Whatever you drew disappears. Well, that's what happened to ancient human societies, and those societies go back 800,000 years. Humans have been extremely advanced, and then they would, what was left, then new societies would build on top of the old ones. So, like Göbekli Tepe, Egypt, even Greece, these were built on top of older, more ancient, and sometimes even more advanced societies. And then these 12,000 year cycles would happen. All of these things, all of this is well known in anthropological studies of the ancient stories, and they're not just stories, they're history. It's very important for us to recognize that. Furthermore, if you'd like to learn more about this as a science and understand the astrophysics of the galactic current sheet, how it affects the solar current sheet, and how the sun and the earth current sheet work, and how none of these changes are caused by humans at all, but rather we experience them, and it's written in our ancient history and our DNA. And your body, we are the children of the survivors of all of those shifts. So humans have survived 66 12,000 year cycles like this. And we're talking about massive cataclysms, huge floods and storms, and you name it. And this is what they wrote about. This is what they tried to explain for the future. That's what they wrote in stone for us. Every single culture on this planet has those available to us, and how to survive it, how to thrive even afterwards, right? But this one is bigger than the others. Why? Because there's more people on the planet than ever combined. In all 66 12,000 year cycles, take all the people who were on the planet at those times, and even if you added them all up, they would not equal how many people are riding out this one combined. There's more people. Why? Why did so many people incarnate during this 12,000 year cycle? Because it's our opportunity, it's our chance to go into becoming a new species. What a rare and special time. And so many, many people came over this 12,000 year cycle to understand the last remnants of power as we've known it for billions of years in this galaxy, power over dynamics, to witness what it really takes to become something new, Homo luminous, and to guide all of that process, whether in the body or out, to be part of what's going on, to learn, to truly learn, to experience something unique. To be invited to be human is rare. But as many of those invitations went out as possible over the past basically 500 years, and people took them. Lots of beings got invited to come and witness this in the body and outside of it. So, if you want to know more about exactly how the astrophysics of this works, Ben Davidson, he's slightly younger than me, like by a year. Ben Davidson at Suspicious Observers on YouTube. Just watch he's got a really great hour or so long movie that he made, and he has what he calls the main disaster playlist. And he describes all these things in great detail in very simple ways so that you can understand what's happening and how this is an important and precious cycle. But he's first and foremost a very, very well spoken scientist. And He pulls together all the scientific articles, the evidence, the facts, and really lays it out so that you can understand what's going on. So I defer to him. I've studied under him. That's why I know what we're talking about here. And he's always keeping tabs. He has been doing like a daily update every day for years, for 10 years, every day, diligently, since his late 20s, early 30s. He's been doing this. And I just want to honor him because he's really one of the most important voices of what's really happening to the climate, the planet, and the galactic current sheet that is out there. Good. Yeah, I like what Beth says, becoming diamonds out of carbon. Yeah, man. Okay, so Wendy Marie says, I'm curious what you think about all this discussion about a solar flash, which would move some people into the fourth or fifth dimension. So the as the electromagnetic field disappears, all solar activity, including coronal holes and excited photons and solar wind, and then all there's different grades of solar flashes, what we might call solar flares. All of those are going to have a more dramatic effect on the earth. It's already happening. So, like, for example, on Monday, we have a coronal hole, uh, which puts a lot of solar wind out, that's going to hit the planet on Monday. And likely that'll probably cause some storms, perhaps maybe earthquakes, or at least mental instability. Sometimes depression happens. If you follow that suspicious observers community, you can really track and see what's going on and know what to expect, because there's a certain amount of time for stuff that changes from the sun takes to get to the earth. So that's really handy because it keeps you posted, like, okay, I know what to expect on Monday, right? But this latter part, Wendy, um, moving some people into a fourth or fifth dimension, I'm going to be very honest to you, okay? It's bullshit. All of that is new age bullshit. That's new age brainwashing. What's the truth? Your body, you're not going to move into a different dimension. You already have access to all 12 dimensions. That's why being human is so unique. You don't need to move anywhere. That's bypassing. You don't want to escape this. You want to open up. It's an open floor plan. You don't move from the third dimension to the fifth. You have access to the whole thing already. Already. What do you need to do to access it? Trauma healing. That's the number one thing you can be doing right now, is working on your trauma. If you want access to all 12 dimensions, which is your birthright as a human being, one of the greatest beings that have ever existed, then heal your trauma. Work on your personal stuff and work on your genetic trauma, and you will access them. If you want, I teach a series of classes about navigating dimensions. It's available on my website. Grab them. I made them affordable. Grab them. Navigating the dimensions of consciousness. You're not going to leave anywhere. Nobody's going to go anywhere. Nobody's going to ascend. Ascension is a kind of a terrible word because it makes we say higher dimensions. They're not higher. The first and second dimension are just as important. They're just as valuable. Don't throw them out. The third dimension's amazing. It's so sad how they want to get out of their suffering so bad that they completely forget how valuable trauma really is. Trauma trash bags are treasure. When you value them and you understand all that compassion that you've built up through your trauma, then you get access to a big open floor plan that is the human body, the human experience. You don't need to go anywhere. You need to go inside yourself, deeper and deeper and deeper, and then the open floor plan of 12 dimensions is available to you, and the consciousness of each of them is available to you. Your connection to source all the time, never ending, never dying, is available to you. Heal your trauma. That's all you have to do is work on that every day. Learn how to do emotional processing. I'm going to send out a replay reminder, and I'm also with that I'm going to send a link to a document about all these things. The meditation I just told you about with the Sri Yantra, the how to do emotional processing properly and heal your genetic trauma. It's a method. I'm going to send that out to everybody so that you have that, because that's what you need to be focusing on. That's the foundation of the truth of reality. Nobody's leaving anywhere. And the people who purport that, they're trying to escape the powerful value of suffering. They want to bypass it. They want to go into a cozy corner where they don't have to feel bad anymore. Then you are literally leaving behind half of the universe, which is really dense stuff, but it's all made of light. When we value our suffering fully and 100%, then the whole universe becomes available to you, the whole 12 dimensions of consciousness and the oneness with source, the possibility of enlightenment, the ability to move through suffering without issues so that it doesn't create trauma, but rather you're able to instantly value the troubles you go through without problems. So then that's how it looks. It's not that the suffering goes away, it's that you're able to manage it with grace and ease and recognize what it is, just frequencies. All suffering is just frequencies. The library of consciousness is love. Because it exists, it is loved. Radical, unconditional love is a truly radical thing. It is the source of all equanimity and consciousness. It makes all your suffering become absolutely perfect. Because it exists, it is loved. All of my suffering, all the pain and agony that I go through and that you go through, it exists, therefore it is loved in consciousness. And that needs to be the basis of the new culture. And to get real about the very terrible sort of infiltration of the new age to keep all these light workers and beings of power only interested in comfort instead of the strength and radical capabilities of true unconditional love. So this is the truth as I'm aware of it. And if it doesn't resonate with you, that's okay. That's welcome too. So again, take what resonates. Take what I'm saying and run it through your own discernment, your discernment. Run it through your mind, your heart, your gut. Discern for yourself if what I'm saying is true. And go from there. So, Alice is asking about the field, if it's reached its thinnest point yet. No, it's only halfway. No, and so Ben Davidson predicts probably about 2030 or early 2040s, the electromagnetic field will be gone. It'll be at zero, and then it will begin to slowly bounce back. So that's what to expect with the timing. Yeah, and Jennifer's correct. That's the movie Annihilation 2018. I'm warning you, it's seriously dramatic movie. But I have to tell you, it's one of my top 5 favorite movies. But if you don't like scary movies, don't watch it. Just warning. Yeah, so just kind of recognizing what people are saying about dying. Very interesting. Yeah, I think the mass extinctions, the fear of the pain and disabilities during the dying process. Um, a lot of a lot of you have already gone through moments where you're like, I think I might die. Me too. This past year there's been a couple of them, and I got to know death really well. All that's happening, yes. Uh-huh. Absolutely valid, right? And so just like the fear of pain or the fear of disability, we process those too. We can welcome that too and collapse that too. Um, and many of you having a difficult time trying to learn how to say love the dark or false light, right? Or falseness in general. Recognizing those are frequencies that belong in the library too, but that's very, very hard to do. And it can feel like a dying inside. But I would actually, Janine, specifically say the dying that you feel or that the attempt at it is killing you is actually the ego dying, not you, not your soul. Your soul is far more advanced than the thing that feels like it's dying. What can we do to prepare? Well, you're always going to prepare mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Spiritual and emotional and mental go hand in hand with emotional processing of trauma and meditation. Those are the two tools, or prayer. Perhaps meditation's not your gig, but prayer, right? And then physically, well, put all of your wealth, all of your consciousness, all of your assets into the five things I mentioned: gold, silver, land, medicine, food, and water, of course. I kind of include water and food as the sort of same. Speaking of water, I'm going to take a drink of water. Drink break. All right, good. So, how do you ground yourself? Yeah, be barefoot, garden. Those are the two top ways to get your body aligned with what's happening with the planet, and she's going to help us, right? She's our number one fan. If she wasn't, we'd all have been disappeared a long time ago. But Gaia loves humanity. Don't underestimate that love. Just be with her, sit with her, talk to the plants and the animals. Get your hands in the soil, even if it's cold. Hug trees. It's crazy how trees can transmute energy. It's wild. I've had trees that have helped me do big processes really quick, right? And they move dense energy through the body. And just by connecting, and I would put my forehead up against the tree, and it just acts like a giant vacuum, kind of like what's happening in consciousness now. There's this vacuum energy as the universe and the void become one with what's happening with the earth. Um, Wendy asks, would you comment on your thought of star seeds? Sure. That's another popular new age concept, right? And it's because it kind of creates a tribalist mentality, a group mentality, a group identity of like, I'm a star seed, but that person is not. That's not true. All of our souls come from the beginning of time. We've all done lots of crazy things. We've been lots of beings. We're all star seeds. Nobody's not a star seed. That's the trippy part. So it's not like it's a unique, individuated, only a select group of people are star seeds. That's not true. The human soul and everybody's soul, all the souls, we come from the beginning of time. We've done lots of crazy things and we get to do new stuff even now. Still, it's an endless playground of consciousness if that's how you want to play with it and recognize it. Um, so it's not special, but the concept of starseed tends to make people not pay attention to this life because this one's been uncomfortable and focus in on, well, what were the other beings that I was? What other planets have I been on? Were they better? And my warning to you is that they are not. They have not been better. All of the beings, especially in this galaxy, like, let me point some things out. Gray aliens, tall whites, Syrians, Pleiadians, Orions, Arcturians, etc., etc., Lyrans, they all are human. They all had human DNA. The reason they look different and act different is because that DNA grew on a different planet, which makes them align with the energy of the planet they're on. So they look different and they act different and they have different stuff going on. But all of them went through power over dynamics, and all of them almost went through incredible, mind blowing, awful stuff. The Pleiadians nearly genocided their own species without any interference. The Syrians were involved in the galactic wars for so long, they almost destroyed themselves too. The gray aliens had to destroy their own planet. It's absolutely tragic. No wonder they look so strange. They were stuck in space forever. They can't make babies anymore. They're a mess. That's why they abduct people, because they need hybrids. It doesn't work well. Being a hybrid sucks because that DNA came from and evolved on a different planet. So it's very hard. Being human's hard. It's also one of the most rewarding things that you can experience because, again, you get access to 12 dimensions of consciousness when everybody else doesn't. But then you put DNA here on this planet, original DNA that didn't have any memory. And this planet is very unique. It's made of two planets. And that's a whole thing. I've taught multiple classes. There is one available in my store called the Remembering DNA, where I talk about what happened to our planet. Like, why is Gaia so unique? Why is the Earth so unique? It's such a strange planet. Um, and so, you put this original DNA on the planet, and all eyes are on us. We have more interference. We have had more interference with our species evolution than anybody in this galaxy. None of our guides from Sirius and Pleiades and Arcturus, etc., are better than us. But all eyes are on us because this has been the most unusual, most sought after planet, most sought after DNA, most usurped, most interfered with species that's ever existed in this galaxy. So there's way more factors that make the human evolution far more complicated than any others. It's worth understanding at least how did we get here to this moment. So don't worry about the past life stuff. Be present, be here. Get to know the history of the earth. And all that's going to get disclosed more, thank goodness. I'm glad for that. People, wondering about what we might call dharma, right? So Sarah saying, what I thought I was here to do is not unfolding. Wendy Marie saying, yeah, I want to stay, I want to help, but I also long for home. And, Caroline saying, we've all played both sides, we've all been tyrants, we've all been victims. That's right. And a lot of the divine timing of what we call dharma or like spiritual purpose is not quite fully unfolded yet. We need to get through the clearing of the rest of the human consciousness through the body. We got to get through the root chakra. We got to get through this next solstice. And then in January, there's going to be a second wave that's fast and hard. It'll happen very, very quickly. It's the second wave. It's the clear light, the clear wave. You won't see it coming. But that's the cool part about this kind of work is that myself and my teacher, we track this stuff and we see it coming. So we can warn you to prepare for the shattering of human ego at a whole level, at a grand level. Um, but just as that December solstice wave finally gets through the core of the human experience, and you're like, oh, I get a breath, then that wave hits you. So being prepared with emotional processing and being prepared to dismantle more and more and more of you know, what has kind of held you safely in the matrix, being ready for this final dissolving, this sort of etch a sketch of consciousness, this shakeup. That's such a great thing that you're doing for consciousness as if you're prepared, right? So just going through, and Melena's correct, death isn't the problem, slavery is the problem. It's always true. Death is not the problem, it's slavery. That's the problem. And that's what we've been doing for many, many eons, is the slavery part, right? And so, will chronic illness disappear? I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know exactly how that'll look. Nobody does. Homo luminous is an incredible mystery. It's pretty neat. And people complaining of not sleeping, yes, absolutely. Um, Safety issues about having gold and silver, it's really just a matter of spreading it out a bit through your belongings in such a way that's not obvious, right? So think of it in that way. And cryptocurrencies, I follow some folks who like cryptocurrencies. I follow people who don't. I personally and psychically loathe them. I think cryptocurrencies are a terrible idea. And so I don't involve myself with them. If you knew who ran cryptocurrencies, if you knew who was behind them, you would run. So don't go there. I think it's a waste of your energy. Some people like to play that game and they make a bunch of cash and they cash out, and what do they do with their cash? They usually buy gold and silver. That's my opinion. Um, yeah, that's a good question, Penelope. How do we support folks transitioning? Prayer, asking the angelic to come and help out, right? So when my friend Alora was transitioning, we had a long talk and we brought in all of her guides and the angelic especially, and that was helpful. The angels definitely want to help with those sorts of things. They're good at it, and they can help with so many things. Put them to work. And then, of course, prayer. Pray, pray, pray. Pray for people. Prayer is powerful. Prayer is multidimensional. And just keep showing up the best you can. If you get those moments to just spend in presence, there's what we would call the ministry of presence. You don't need to say anything. You don't need to have a conversation. Just be present. The ministry of presence is very powerful. Very good. Some people have a hard time with gazing as a meditation technique. Um, you can use eye drops to help you keep your eyes open because your eyes will burn a bit. And what I do is I let them burn, and you get through this momentary discomfort with your eyes continuing to be open. And then as they burn, they water. And when they water, the burning goes away. So I think you're stopping right before the watering happens. And when the watering happens, the burning goes away. And then when you gaze at the Sri Yantra, everything around you disappears because the micro movements of your eyes stop. But that document I'm gonna send everybody with the replay reminder. Um, there's a great description in the Lifestyle of Light ebook that's in there about that. So kind of just keep going, get through the discomfort, and your eyes will naturally um, water. Or use eye drops beforehand, maybe especially moisturizing eye drops to help you if you have to. So, and then if it really just doesn't work for you, try a different kind of meditation instead. Maybe mindfulness, right? So focusing actually on the things you're hearing or focusing on a smell. Mindfulness meditation can be very cool as well. Haman is asking, when processing, he notices the trigger and then he sits with it in meditation and then asks the source field to show him how that trigger is and what it's doing on a quantum level. And he's asking if he should ask if it's the fourth dimensional body. No, focus in on the emotional body. So don't worry about the fourth dimensional body. The emotional body is what you use to navigate triggers. That's what you're going to use. That's what will help you most. And of course, the emotional body is woven into every cell of your body. That's why emotions will move around all over the place and be in weird spots like your pinky or your ears. Ah, my pleasure. I'm so glad this resonates for you, Karen. My apologies. I'm still reading all of your comments. I like to make sure that we're really interacting the best way that I can help you. AA asks, can you please say something about the Great Divide? Would you elaborate? I'm not sure. I could guess what that means, but maybe better if you tell me. What is the Great Divide to you? Alchemize Your Life says, I do not like abuse. If I understand this right, you say to not resist it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that all, like, if somebody's abusing that you, then cut them off. Leave, walk away. You don't have time for that, right? But then when you go, make sure you address what are the frequencies that got laid out in the abuse, right? And when we merge with certain frequencies, it dissolves trauma in the body and makes you more impermeable to more abuse. It makes it less likely that your inner trauma will attract other abuse. So no, I'm not telling you to allow abuse at all. No. What I'm saying is something very different. It's this is a method. We call it merger. It's from the kind of mysticism I'm trained in. And it you work with frequency. It's a very high level of processing emotions and traumas. It's frequency based processing. And so that means that you're trying to find the frequency in something, right? So if something is disturbing, you make action to protect yourself and get out of that situation. But then you got to process the trauma that happened, and the trauma is going to be very specific feelings. The emotional body, the emotional body is the one who has those feelings, right? Of feeling sad, angry, lonely, terrified. Those are frequencies, right? So like there's lots of entities that, basically are our adversaries, right? And if we want to end war or we want to end spiritual war dynamics, you have to be willing to merge with or recognize in yourself all of the trauma trash bags and all of the resistance and egoic structures that might have basically been the exact right polarity match for whatever you drew into your life. but you got to always process both. So you're not just going to process the way that being a victim felt, which is a frequency, but you're also going to process the feeling of a tyrant too. And when you do that, you collapse it, and then you don't attract victim tyrant dynamics anymore. Right? So this is very, very specific stuff. And a lot of the things that I teach, I cover this as much as I can. And then, of course, um, if you grab the Universal Library series out of my store, that really covers the frequency based processing in a dynamic way, in a systematic way, so that you can even stuff, preempt yourself attracting crazy stuff by focusing in on polarities of frequency that you're very conscious of already, and then others that you're not so conscious of. But once you do it really systematically all the time, it becomes a lifestyle. And then you basically do an upkeep every day of any more trash bags that show up. And you're free of your genetic trash bags and your personal trash bags that were all based in polarities. Again, all frequencies, all through the feelings. And then when you merge with something, you become basically invincible to it because it's familiar now. So like anger moves through and it doesn't get trapped and create more trash bags. Anger moves through, it's like, "Oh, hello anger. I'm neutral to you." Right? And when we're neutral, then we don't attract people and situations that make us angry. And then you avoid more abuse. So you can end the abuse cycles doing this method. It's intense. This is not easy. It's probably harder than most methods, but the outcomes, you get access to more of the dimensions, the open floor plan of the human experience comes online. You remember more of your past lives. Like if you want to remember more of your past lives, do this. Don't worry about the past lives. Just do this and you'll remember. It's guaranteed. It's happened to me, my teacher, everybody I know who does any of this, who's been doing it for long enough. We remember so much all the time. It's amazing. So this is how you avoid abuse. You merge with everything so fully that you become pretty much invisible energetically. When you put protections up, it's like, come and get me. I'm behind this big castle. Come break my castle down. I have a big shield. Come try to get rid of it. Try to stab through it. So protection doesn't work because it's avoidance. It's kind of bypassing. Instead, we say, what am I afraid of? Ah, yeah, okay, I'm afraid of slavery. I'm going to merge. That's a frequency. How does the frequency of the emotion of slavery feel in my body, or the fear of death? How does that feel in my body? Well, it's welcome here. I'm welcoming this because it exists. Therefore, it is loved. And there's a lot to learn from these dense things. And then we welcome and welcome. It's not easy, it's very uncomfortable. And right before you think it's too unbearable, a lot of people quit because they're like, I can't stand this. I can't stand merging with falseness and darkness. This makes me feel like I'm going to die. And you quit right before you made the breakthrough. So when it becomes unbearable and you think you're going to die, that's right when you're almost done. Don't quit. Because that's when you're fully immersed in the frequency, you've hit the bottom of it. And that's when you can finally pull the plug. And there's this huge release because all the dense energy of that frequency in your body maintained by trauma, it unravels all at once. And it's freaking awesome. The breakthroughs that happen and the expansiveness, and then none of that stuff shows up anymore in your personal life. because you're invisible to tyrants, you're invisible to the abusers. They're only looking for victims. But you merged with both of them, and now none of that's gonna show up. It literally works that way. It's very cool. I hope that helps as a deeper description. Good. Yeah, so some of these things I can't answer because I'll get censored. So I encourage you to do your research on your own. Do your research. Look at the history that's coming out now. Human history is so much weirder than you've been taught. Basically, throw out everything you think you know. Be willing to know nothing first, and then do your research. Read the book. Here's a good idea. If you want to know who runs that whole upper pyramid, read the book Unplugging the Patriarchy, written by my teacher, Lucia Renee. Unplugging the Patriarchy. Read that book, and then you'll understand. And there's lots of amazing stuff in that book. That whole book is nonfiction. It's totally true. Everything that happened, and much, much more since then that I'm hoping to write about because my teacher's too tired to write another book. But I'm going to write about what happened in the past 12 years since she put that book out. That's how I know her. I became her assistant to help get that book out through the world. She hired me as her assistant, and then I became her apprentice. And so read that book and you'll understand. Because I can't talk about it on here. I'm actually thinking about moving either over to Rumble or BitChute. I'm not sure where I can speak more openly because I can't do that right now. Um, yeah, that'll be great. Good. Yeah, we'll see how fast I can get the new book done, huh? So we'll see. Very good. So here we're kind of coming towards the end of our call, which is when we get to do something fun. And so let's do a meditation. And I'm going to guide this meditation. And I want to focus in on, you know why that there's the two pyramids? It's an attempt at, and you'll find this is true. There's always an attempt at mimicking what's happening in consciousness, creating a fake version of it. Once you read the book Unplugging the Patriarchy, you'll see what I mean. There's always false versions to distract you, like the internet. So like the internet is the fake version of Indra's net. And people they need the spelling sometimes. So Indra, Indra, Indra's net. This is an ancient concept, and if you go and you look it up, there's like a whole history about the concept of Indra's net. It's as old as time, right? So Indra's net is the real internet, and that's actually the second dimension. That's why we need to value the first two dimensions just as much as the higher ones. Indra's net is more and more and more online now, and online as in available in consciousness. The internet, the one we're using right now, is a fake version of it. It's a false version, and it can't possibly mimic precisely what Indra's net is. On Indra's net, points of consciousness are mirrors of the whole universe. What that would look like if they had tried to create the internet correctly, each website would be a mirror of the whole internet. But they can't do that because this is fake, right? And it distracts you, it makes you think that you're connected. That's not how you really connect. You really connect. This is just a big dopamine machine that is very, very capable of doing social experiments and mind control. So Indra's net, you are on it. You're a point, a droplet of water on a web, and your droplet, our goal is to be as clear as possible of trauma and ego and problematic ego, right? So we have some ego that's not a problem, like survival, but problematic ego and trauma, and the more you clear it, the more clear you are, right? So someone who's really traumatized, someone who's really in their problematic ego, which is expectations, judgments, attachments, and resistance, they're really dense, right? And it's almost like putting a metal ball on the net, and it creates a gravitational force. That's why people who are really traumatized tend to draw in more trauma, and then they just sink to the bottom of consciousness, right? But as you work on the trauma stuff, you become more and more clear. You become more lightweight. You're not as dense, you're more expansive, and you're more clear. And then something cool happens. Then you recognize I am the universe. I'm not different. I'm a reflection of it. And so as that occurs, then you begin to recognize that you are simply a mirror of everything else. That's why we always utilize the external to help us get less dense and more clear. And as we're clearer and clearer, the clear light of consciousness from Source God moves through you and makes it easier for the people who are like the little metal marbles that they're just sinking deeper into their trauma, drawing even more towards them, right? It's like a gravitational pull, right? That's why people say, I feel like I have victim written on my forehead. I just attract all the weirdos. And that's why. It's because it's like a gravity pull. So trauma healing is so important. It's so key. It's so foundational. I can't reiterate it enough, and just also just show you how much love is in that. So um, that's going to be really special as you kind of consider that. Think of it, that's part of all of our purpose here is going to be to get clear, allow the clear light of consciousness to move through us, and that lifts up all consciousness and it helps all beings. That's why enlightenment is a gift to all beings. That's all enlightenment means. It means the personal self gets out of the way, and the fact that you're a mirror of the universe, that everything is made of the clear light, the light of the void, the light of symmetry, the light of source. That is how it works. So I want to show you why they did this whole double pyramid thing. It's because it's an attempt to copy the double torus. And you can even see it in this. There's the pyramid here and the pyramid here, and see how it all moves together. And so the universe and the human body and pretty much all things in existence have a double toroid way of working and functioning. So I just want to meditate on that and bring in this light, right? We're going to bring in a few qualities of light. And so first we're going to ground ourselves in the lower pyramid here, the grounded pyramid. And then we're going to do the galactic pyramid. Okay? And it's going to feel really good. And I hope to leave you at a nice high state of samadhi. Good. All right. So let's just drop in to the heart. The heart is the still point from which all of your consciousness comes from, right? So again, we use the Sri Yantra. There's the heart. It's the still point. It's the gateway of the soul, which comes from Source God through your body. It's the still point. It's the symmetry point. And I just want you to focus on the heart right now. And take a deep breath. We've covered a lot of intense things. Let this move through you. Let it dissolve things in you. Let the qualities of light I've tried to weave into our talk today, let that move through you. Let it just shake some stuff up so that it can shift. Let it do its thing. You don't have to worry about it. You don't need to control it. You don't need to understand it with your mind. It's pretty much nearly impossible to do that anyway. So just relax the mind, bow to the mind. Say, thank you so much, brain mind, for trying to help me right now. I am the soul in charge. And my intention is to fully embrace myself as a reflection of all. And so drop again deeper into the heart. Take another deep breath. And now I want you to bring your attention to the toroidal energy that moves from the heart down. And so the lower half of the body works with that energy. Notice which direction it's spinning. Usually it'll go counterclockwise to your left. Notice if it's not, maybe it's going to the right. Just notice it. You don't need to do anything to it. Just notice that. Notice which direction is the lower toroid going. If it spins to the left, that means it's drilling down into the earth. If it's spinning to the right, it's trying to go up and out. So we might, if it's spinning to the right, you might just notice it and just ask your body to ground. And then it might spin the other way. So we might say, dear heart, I ask for my lower vortex to ground with the earth now. And then take a deep breath. Now we're going to ask the earth, dear Mother, Mother Earth, Mother Gaia, what qualities of light can we connect to the best today? And just notice what kinds of feelings come up from the earth. How does it feel? What emotions come up? Do they have a color? How does it feel from the earth right now? And welcome it. And say with me, dear heart, I welcome these energies from the earth right now in my body and field. And take another deep breath. Let them move up through your feet, your legs, your hips, your chakras, your solar plexus, your gut, and your heart. And let them move out from the heart around you, away like a fountain from the heart. Let them be made available to you and everyone around you. The more clear light you are, the more qualities of universal light can move through you for everyone else. Another deep breath. Now bring your attention back to the heart. Be very still. And then notice the energy flowing from the heart upwards, the upper vortex. Notice how that spins. If it's spinning to the left, it's bringing energy down. If it spins to the right, it's moving energy up and out. Again, there's nothing wrong with any one direction of spinning. You just want to notice it. And it moves up and out all the way out into the galaxy. So it goes way up, way up, way up. Just like as we drilled down, it went to the heart of the earth. You might have noticed that. But from the heart up, it opens up to the fullness of the galactic. And let's ask, dear heart, I welcome all the qualities of light from galactic consciousness to ground into my body now. Take a deep breath. We're going to talk to the galaxy, okay? We say, dear grandmother galaxy, what energies are available to us right now? And notice the quality. How does it feel? What are the emotions? Do they have a color? You might find that you want to both open up but also receive. That's fine. Things can spin both directions at the same time. There's parts and layers to our vortices. So some of it might drill energy down into your body, and some of it might be putting energy up and out into the galaxy. And that's fine, it can do both. Notice how all of these feel, these energies coming from Grandmother Galaxy. And say with me, dear heart, I fully welcome these energies currently coming from and through me to all beings from the galaxy now. And take another deep breath. And now we're going to merge these things. We're going to ask, dear heart, all of the energies that want to go from the galaxy to the earth, all of the energies that want to go from the earth to the galaxy, allow them to move freely for today through me as a conduit, a mirror of the universe. Allow them to help dissolve any trauma and welcome in source light. Now, take a deep breath. Beautiful. Take another deep breath to end our meditation. That's lovely. There's a mudra, a hand yoga that looks like this that can help with this meditation. And my last message to you, my friends, besides how much I love you, is actually from my teacher. Because I spoke to her right before I got on the call, and she was like, "Oh, I have stuff for you to tell." And so I was telling you a lot of what we talked about already. But she said, "Tell them how important their attention is. And when you put the attention on the external with the purpose of becoming one with it, and you merge yourself with all reality, that's one of the best things you can do. Your attention with the intent to merge with all things and become the universe is very powerful right now. So pay attention, especially to how you react. Pay attention to what gets shown inside of you, resistance or judgments, triggers and reactions. That's very precious. It's precious because it's showing you what trash bags need to go so that you can be one with all things. And then play with this meditation this month and pray for me. Pray for me. My birthday is on October 15th, and I'll be 40. And 40 is Venus return. It's the time when you finally figure out who you are, right? And I feel like I finally figured out who I am. It's so true. But it's such a great blessing. And I'll probably send a gift out to you for my birthday because I like very much to give gifts on my birthday. I'll probably send you some music because I'm a musician and I enjoy singing and playing music. And we will meet on the 28th of October for our next call at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern Time. So this has been so fun and I love you so much. I think you're so amazing. All of you are absolutely precious beings. The power and the light that moves through you is unprecedented. Do not underestimate that. Don't underestimate how powerful your prayers are for each other. And I thank you. I know that you do look after me a lot. I sure appreciate that. And, just also want you to know that these um, methods that I've described today, they're not new. And full liberation, speaking specifically to you, my dear sweet sister Janine, full liberation has absolutely been fully experienced by this method alone. And I got to witness that over the past 12 years. I watched Lucia Renee, my teacher, become fully liberated through this method alone and good meditating. And I hope that the meditation today will be valuable to you. So, yes, merger is an ancient method. It's tantric Buddhist concepts, but even before all of that, too. It's a galactic concept. It comes from the beginning of time because it has everything to do with the fact that you are the universe, right? But yes, it's true. We can get there through this. And it will be such a great tool for us as we continue forward into something new. Good. Well, I love all of you so much. I can't wait to talk again. And I intend to be teaching a lot more. So, my My 40th year, I think I'm gonna try to master that teaching. That teaching skill. I hope you'll join me. Bless you, my dear friends. So much love. Namaste.